Welcome to ASOR's Tutorials for Cultural Heritage Survey. This tutorial will focus on creating a new survey project in KoboToolbox. After opening up a web browser on your desktop computer, navigate to KoboToolbox.org. From here, select Sign Up, which will take you down to the link to log into your account. Enter your login information from the previous tutorial and select Login. After logging in, you'll be directed to your main dashboard for your KoboToolbox projects. You can see I have already created one project here, but this tutorial will focus on creating a brand new form. Before we even do that, I just want to show you how to change the language settings in case you prefer using KoboToolbox in a language other than English. You select your top profile in the top right corner, and once you select language, then you'll see multiple options. But we'll just stay with English for this tutorial. Okay, we're ready to create a new form. The first step is to select this blue New button, and a pop-up will appear. And from here, you can actually import templates if you have templates in Excel or XLS. But for us, let's just build from scratch. After selecting New, a pop-up will appear where you can enter the details for your new project. We'll just call this Sample Project. And as you can see, the description is not required, so we'll just skip that for the tutorial. You can pick a sector and country. So once all the information has been entered, next is Create Project. And now we're at the blank project form. After creating your project, you'll be taken to this blank form page. One thing to note is that at any time, you can change the title of your project. So here you see you just have a blank page, and the first thing we want to do is add a new question. You do that by selecting this plus mark. When you hover over it, it turns blue. So now we have our first question, and we need to name it. Now you can think of this survey form as questions with answers, or as a database with field names. So for cultural heritage, what's the first thing we probably want is maybe a location or site name. So I'll just type in site name here. And then we click the Add Question button. A drop-down appears with the different types of ways that we can collect information. So for site name, probably the option that makes the most sense is text. And this would mean that it's just a free text field. We could type in anything, there's no restriction on characters. And as we come across different sites, we would just type in the name of the site. So we've created our first question, and we just keep adding more questions to the form. Let's say now we want to look at the site type. And this would be a good example of using either the select one or select many options. Both of these would provide multiple choices that people filling out the form could select. However, with select many, you're not limited to just choosing one of the options. So for site type, we could have a building. We could also have monument. So we've added our first two options, and we can keep adding more options by selecting this click to add another response. We could also have a cemetery. And for site type, we could potentially come across a monument that is also part of a cemetery. So we want to have the ability to select both of these options. Okay, so we could add as many of these as we would like, but let's just stick with 3 for right now for this sample form. Perhaps maybe we can add other and add an additional question of site type and specify the other. So this again would probably just be free text because we don't know what type of site we're encountering, but we know that it doesn't fit into our pre-assigned vocabulary. We might also be interested in the site condition. And for this one, this would make sense to do a select one. Just a very simple, good, fair, poor. So for a site condition, we are not going to select good and fair. We just need to select one of these options. The site's either in good condition, fair, or poor. And of course, what these terms mean is all dependent upon your project and the definitions that you create. Another important type of question that we are probably interested in would be the location of the site. So I'll add a question. And what's nice about KoBoCollect is that we have this point, line, and area feature. And these will actually create a point in the map. It'll use the GPS built into your phone or tablet and collect a point. Now, of course, this only works if you have internet connection to your phone or tablet as you're out in the field collecting. So as a backup, it makes sense to include a longitude, which is just decimal, and latitude fields. Now, the reason to include these is that, as I mentioned in a previous tutorial, KoBoCollect, the app that you'd use on your phone to collect the information that is tied to this form, it can also collect information when you do not have an internet connection. So let's say you have your own GPS unit and you can just type in manually the longitude and latitude of the site where you're collecting information. Or you could go and find that longitude and latitude back in your lab or back once you have an internet connection established. But I think it's important to always have the location which is automatically collected when you have internet connection on your phone, and also these manual entry fields of longitude and latitude. So a couple other features that might interest you would be taking photos. The KoBoCollect app will actually connect to your camera on your phone. So we select, we create the question that's photo 1. And then as we scroll down, we find the photo selection. And so what this will do is, as you get to this question on the form, your phone may ask, do I have permission to access your camera? You say yes, and then you can take a picture and it automatically stores here. You could do the same for audio. So if you're doing an audio interview, here's the audio feature here, and video. So one thing I'll note is that because we're using the free version of KoboToolbox, we only have 5 gigabytes of data allowed to collect and store per month. So with audio and video files, that could fill up very quickly. So it might not make sense to collect audio and video information using this form. Rather, just collect it on your tablet, store it in a way that makes sense, and you'll be able to find it later on, and then attach it to this record. So we have the photo, but we also may want a description or a caption for that photo. So that actually needs to be a separate question. Because each one of these questions is tied to the type of question. And this one makes sense, again, probably just as a free text. So we have the photo caption for photo 1. And you could just, if you wanted to collect multiple photos, you could go photo 2 caption. Now, any of these questions can actually be moved up or down along the form, and that'll change the order that they appear as you're filling out the form. So you just hover over it and you can move it up here. So we want this caption to be right below the photo 1. That way, after someone collects a photo, the very next question will be caption, where they can write descriptive information. You may also notice that you can add questions in between existing questions. Just as you hover, the plus sign appears and you can add the question there. Let's just make this a test question that we're inserting in between other questions. And we'll do select 1. Now, for any question, we can also delete that at any time, just by hovering over it and you see the trash can icon appear. Click on that, and now it's gone. So this looks like a pretty good sample form. It shows the variety of types of questions that can be asked. I'd invite you to create your own form and experiment with other types of questions as well. But once you're done, make sure to save here in the top right corner with the save button. Now, one thing you might notice is, let's say we add a new question. Test question again. We add it. And once we select it, now the save button has a little star asterisk appear next to it. That means that there's been changes to the form and you need to save it once again. So really, almost every time you create a new question, you should probably save it. It's just good habit. And that way you don't have to worry about losing any data. Once you're saved and happy with the form, you can return to your main project dashboard by selecting this icon on the top left. It's the Kobo icon. And now we see that our sample project has been created in the draft folder. Any of these projects can also be shared with any other Kobo user who has created their own account. So to share a project, you just hover over it and you select the share icon. From here, it shows who is the owner. So my current account is the owner, and you can add a user this way. So we'll just add one of my accounts, and this is the username, not the email address that is used to create the account. I'll also mention that the usernames are case sensitive. So if I had a capital J here versus a lowercase j, that could be two different users. So you may enter a username and have a capital letter where it shouldn't be, and all of a sudden it cannot find the user. And probably the reason why is that one of the letters is capitalized. So here in sharing, you can allow a variety of permissions. Maybe you just want a user to be able to edit the form or just view submissions, but not actually edit new submissions. You also have options for validating, deleting. If you want to provide kind of overall access similar to what an owner has, to be able to edit, create, delete, just select Manage Project at the bottom and grant permissions. And now it shows the two people who have access and the ability to manage a project. If you have a form that you're planning just to share with the public, let's say for a public survey, you don't have to necessarily worry about providing individual access to any users. You can just say share publicly by link. You select this, and even people who don't have Kobo accounts would be able to view and fill out the form with the proper URL. Thanks for watching this video. As a reminder, you can access all of ASOR's tutorials for Cultural Heritage Survey using the URL located here at the top of the page. Hope to see you again. Goodbye.